Welcome to the Fantasy Goons podcast, part of the Pucks Out family. It's time to skip the book and find out the info you need to win your league with Bobby, Davey, and Brandon.
Now I gotta ride or die.
Welcome into Fantasy Goons podcast. I'm Bobby. He's Davey. He's Brandon.
Heyo!
You can find us on the three majors of social media at Pucks Out Pod. Now let's get you all the info you need to be a champion. Pecorino just made a pretty dope glove save. If he's playing tonight, I didn't catch the number. But we are all three finally in studio together. It's been a long time. We are watching the Preds game, and we're about to give you some info that you've been
people have got to be jazzed because me and Davey, it was great, it was fine, but when it was just me alone, I basically feed off of other people saying stuff and then me correcting them.
Hey, I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it.
Hey, appreciate it. It is
you killed
tough.
it, man. Yeah,
it is tough though. I mean, it was extremely tough. I mean,
I liked the 16-minute episode though last week. That was
it
good.
was speedy-ish. I mean,
it was perfect.
Well, I think I was trying to get out there as quick as possible because I called Bobby out and then had to recall myself out for being an idiot. So, well, it's great to have you guys back. And also I think it's also because Bobby and I normally record a show before this where I've had a couple beers, so I really just flow during the.
See, what you should have done is just getting shit.
Just got shit.
Just liquor. Just got
shitty. Like, what a good week of fantasy.
We like, buddy, I can't release this. You said like 5 slurs.
No, bro, all of those. I said juice. I said the juice, not Jews.
All right. So how have you guys been? I guess for the last couple weeks. I talked to you earlier on the main show about how you've been doing, but Davey, how have you been this last couple weeks, bud?
It's been good. Yeah, I'm sure you guys touched on the snow out here and how that's been. It's been a little bit rough go around out here for a minute. Finally able to make it out here and get a full show together. Other than that, though, everything's good, guys. I'm feeling good and excited to finally be able to speak my mind on fantasy.
It really has been like, 6 weeks since we've all been together?
Yeah, because I think the 2 weeks before I had to step out for a little bit. You were gone.
Out. Yeah. I mean, Davey was out. It's really good to have you guys back. It is just not nearly as fun to pop into another room in my home and talk fantasy sports. It's just not as fun. Yeah. So it's really good to have you guys back. Glad.
I think we'll all be here until late March when the wife and I will be out of town, so I won't be able to be here for then. But other than that, we should be smooth sailing.
Perfect.
But let's get into some. We don't really have any news unless you guys have anything to touch on. There hasn't been much as far as fantasy. I mean, we touched the trades in the main show.
Yeah, I would. I mean, just something that we talked about in the main show. I think Alex Galchenyuk to the Leafs is going to be a decent fantasy move. At least
anybody to the Leafs would be good for
Sure, absolutely. I think that his style is just really going to work there. So, I mean, that's definitely something I wanted to bring up. But let's not discount Zingle to the Senators. Going back to the Senators, I feel like my ad last week when it was the Loner show, the Loner podcast of my own doing, I had Josh Norris from the Senator, and I mean it's one of those rarities because we record earlier than the show actually comes out. So me recording, I didn't record until Friday, whereas normally we record on Tuesday. He has really stepped it up even over the past few days. And I think Zingle going there is going to be a good move for the Senators as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a team that's you need to get better. I mean, everything about them is awful at this point. But like you mentioned, that's a good addition. Josh Norris playing first line, I think, was what he was playing, and that was why it was an excellent pickup potentially last week. But I agree with Dzingel coming back. I think that's a solid little addition to help him increase as well.
When you have something like a massive comeback win like they did against a team like the Leafs, it gives you. I think it gives you a massive. It gives you a massive push as a team. Yeah. You're like, oh, we can do this, and so I think that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're.
I think that was only like a week removed of the anniversary of the Leafs losing to the Zamboni driver too.
yeah. I mean, and David Ayers. I mean, if he was available right now, I'd be snatching him up, as a lot would with goalie problems there. But seriously,
sure, a lot of other teams would. Like I think the Sharks and the Canucks, they'd be like, "Hey, get out of here, bud."
So I think some of those moves are going to be good fantasy wise. I mean, I'm sure that Galchenyuk is widely available right now.
Yeah.
I would hardly imagine that he is a highly sought after prospect. So I think that's something to definitely look at if we're just wanting to talk about a little news that is not within the show itself.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be afraid to add to that point real quick with the Senators.
He is 2% owned.
2%. Yeah, that's lovely.
That's the best kind of milk, if we're being honest.
Those work. But I wouldn't be afraid to, maybe even if you had a slot, to slide somebody in who's maybe even available right now, like a Dadonov or something like that. He is -6. That's unfortunate if you don't have plus-minus in your league. He's
and
not a terrible option, but
you shouldn't have plus-minus in your league, if we're being honest. But seriously, I'm looking at Senators before I'm looking at, let's say, for argument, Dallas Stars right now. Better, obviously better hockey team.
Well, you got to be able to play to get points.
That's the thing. The Canadian teams are playing like I know you touched on, and I'm sure you guys talked about, but they're able to play games, so that helps.
Now, we do record a good bit before we release, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, according to Pred's Facebook, that we could be seeing Forsberg for D'Angelo.
100%. I'm taking D'Angelo. I'd take him if it was a straight up trade right now on my leagues. I would take him. Not that I'd take Forsberg in any of my drafts, because although I should have, apparently he's playing great this year. He decides to play great when we are not as good of a team, I guess. I guess that's kind of his thing. So maybe he should go to the Senators.
Hey, I'm sure right now all the players are. It's like a Willy Wonka golden ticket being able to go up north.
Yeah,
they're just waiting. They're like, oh wait, I get to go to just the Sens. Fine.
Yeah, I have to quarantine for 14 days, but I'm going to miss way less games than I'm even having to deal with. So.
All right, so let's move into weekly impressions. I'll start us off with. Talking about the Habs. Where the hell did they go, man? They waited till I put money on them to win the cup. I talked them all up. They started out 7-1-2, and they've gone 2-4-1 in their last 7.
Yeah, as a Habs fan, I and the rest of the Habs fandom, we do all blame you for the downfall. No, seriously, I agree. I mean, it's been how long since we've seen anything from Shea Weber, who really started hot at the beginning of the year. In a couple of my leagues, my Habs players are still doing well for me. It really depends on how your setup
I've got Nick Suzuki, who's still. He's got
Tyler Toffoli.
Yeah.
He is
best player right now
out for me. So as far as fantasy wise goes, I would say that the Habs are still there for you.
But if you're in a goal heavy league, they're dropping off quick.
Right. When I touch on this later, because I do have Montreal coming up later in the show, but when you lose 3 games to the Ottawa Senators in the same week, I think it was the same week. That's just unheard of.
I think you mean the Ottawa Senators right now.
Right. They're so hot right now.
3 of their 4 wins.
So hot right now. We got Mugato. Just so hot right now.
Davey, what do you got under your weekly impressions?
Yeah, so I've got the Avalanche are back.
Loved yours, man. Loved yours.
This is
stole them from under my feet
right here. I think they're back. They're healthy now. This team is, I think, and you can quote me, I think they're going to be number one because they've got their pieces back. Finally, Landeskog's back. Devon Taves is back. Girard is back. I mean, if you can get your hands on an Avalanche player right now, I'd recommend it. There are quite a few rosterable options over there. Still some that are actually not even rostered too high right now that could slot in nice. They do tend to shift their lines up often, so pay attention as a lot of low percentage guys, a lot of low percentage options are popping up that might bounce off the first or second line for the Avalanche. But if you have JT Compher, drop him right now.
I was about to mention. Drop him so somebody else can pick him up when he gets really hot again, because that's what happens with JT Compher.
Yeah.
Because and I spoke about, I think 3 weeks ago when it was a lone show. It was a lone show, then it was a me and Davey, then it was another lone show.
Yeah.
Brandon Saad. I mean, that's a guy that you need to be looking at right now. Because they're getting exactly what they need from him. Mm-hmm. They're not asking him to do too much. He doesn't need to do too much there.
Right.
I mean, I agree. I was jealous when it was the only thing you had on the dock when I thought I was getting in early to pop up in there and snag some stuff.
I saw you pop in.
We were because we usually do it about the same time. When I'm on lunch, I'm guessing you're probably on lunch about the same time, and we're hitting that stuff because we're doing this show so early that it doesn't make sense to do it 2 days earlier than the day before the day that you're actually recording. But I was actually glad because I got to do a little bit of research of my own. Oilers are hot right now. They are hot. I could have kept going back, but I figured since we're talking about a week-to-week fantasy thing, I didn't want to go back too far. 6-1 in their last 7 games.
Yeah, they are. They're here, I think.
They are looking, and I don't want to say that when I was touting Mike Smith when we were on the show together, that's when this all started, but
it did.
it really did, though. I mean, I think he gave them a little kick, and we talked about Koskinen being that guy that is a great backup and a great guy to have in a situational start. Mike Smith is a leader on this team, and I mean it's I don't watch a lot of Oilers games because I go to work at 6:30 in the morning, so I don't stay up until midnight to watch a lot of Oilers games. But just going back in and reviewing the stats and what's happened, it really does seem like he's giving them a little kick in the butt. And I mean, Connor McDavid on pace right now for what? I mean, I think in an 82 game season, he'd be on pace for like 150 something points. I mean, he's going to get 100 points this year in a 52 game season. If he doesn't become Collar McBroken,
Right.
No, but I am there. It is one of those teams that should have been hot the past few years. And they're finally getting to that point that we're seeing everything that they may have to offer. If you have the opportunity, I'm not going for a guy like Yamamoto. He's really dropped off, but Archibald, he's looking pretty decent.
He's climbing up right now.
He's climbing. I mean, there's
two positions as well.
Lot of, a dual eligibility. You know how we tout that.
I always do.
But I'm looking at Mike Smith right now too. I mean, a 7-1 win pretty previously. It's not looking like they're going to slow down. This is a team that if they could be playing this way going into the playoffs, I'd put good money on them winning the cup. I just don't trust that to happen for them. That's just not the team that they are.
I find it hard to. Yes, they had a rough first half of the season. It was pretty bad, or the first start, and then Smith comes in and they picked it up a little bit because they were lacking goaltenders. I just don't think Smith is the quality, the caliber of goaltender to win you a Stanley Cup.
I agree, but we're not. The biggest thing for me is this is not a who's going to win a Stanley Cup podcast.
This
is a fantasy podcast.
You're right.
And so when you can find a team that's hot like the Oilers are right now, and especially when they're hot, they're scoring like crazy. that's a team that I'm most certainly looking at. Bobby,
Definitely.
anything to say on the Oilers? Any players to look at?
No, not
any
players
guys?
to look at. I mean, it's just, you guys just about covered it. But let's move into pickups, and we'll be looking at their percentage, and we'll be talking about Yahoo percentages in particular. Davey, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so this is an iffy pick. I mean, this is a guy who I think you might be able to give a chance because he's been he's just been the top prospect in the Anaheim Ducks organization now. So he made his NHL debut last week against the Coyotes. I'm referring to Trevor Zegras. If you didn't catch that, he did make his debut. He showed some promise. I mean, despite having no points in his debut, he did have 4 goals, 5 assists in 8 games in the AHL, so he was doing fairly well there. He plays for a rough team in the Ducks, but that has little to no value. A team that has little to no value behind goaltender John Gibson. But if he can continue to get exposure to Silverberg or Raquel, I would expect some points out of him. He has potential to revive this team, if you will, and get them an offensive player back into the top 200 player rankings. They don't have anybody, no offensive players whatsoever in the top 200 player rankings, which is crazy. He's only 26% owned as of this recording. That will go up, I assure you. He was 7% when I first looked at him, and he's now 26, so that's moving up quick. I expect it to go up, like I said, in this brutal Ducks lineup. I expect some scoring out of him.
He's looking like the GameStop stock of players right now.
He is.
It is one of those things that we don't normally tout, but I mean, it's definitely something that you need to be looking at as a dynasty in a dynasty league for sure. You're
Keeper
snatching
leagues maybe,
up
things like
keeper
that.
leagues, maybe depending on if you have some age requirements.
Right.
Bobby, I really like yours a whole lot. What do you?
Yeah,
who
I've
do
got
you have?
Alex Tuck. He's playing on a great team that's lighting up right now, the Golden Knights, and he's 80% available. He started off.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
to me.
he started off struggling, but he's stepping
Dual
it up.
eligibility.
Yeah,
Dual
so
eligibility.
I mean,
Love it.
it's one. And I originally was going to go with Zugarello, but I mean, so you got him.
no
Solid.
duel, but
Yeah, I mean, I picked him up in a league. I don't even know who I dropped for him. Someone who's I think not performing well. But yeah, so Alex Tuck. I'm gonna try and get him in a couple leagues. He was taken in a couple ones, obviously, because we play in a league. I'm in leagues with guys who know what they're doing, and they
you're also in leagues with me and Davey, so chill out, buddy.
But I'm also gonna try and get Matt's as well. So, but will that all go right into you?
Yeah. Matt Zugarello, he had a really rough year last year. After signing with the Wild, it was a match made in heaven that just didn't seem to fit last year.
Mm-hmm.
Being out a good portion of this season and coming back, I mean, this is a right wing for the Minnesota Wild, who we've talked about on this podcast before being a very defensively heavy team, as is tradition. 14% rostered, a right wing. So I don't like that as much on a heavy position within the league. It's tough to find a spot for your right wing guy, but with the postponements and the different game schedule that we're normally used to seeing, 7 points in the last 3 games. I mean, he's only played 4 games since he's come back. He finally got back, and then the Wild had like 4 postponed games. 2 goals, 5 assists. He has a lower time on ice right now, averaging about 15 minutes a game. I look for that to go up. He's not going to offer you a ton of peripherals. So if you're looking for a guy to add some hits or some blocks, there's going to be a couple here and there, but there's just not going to be a lot. But if you're needing some points or some assists or a spot start here or there, I'm really liking him. I think that like I said, I think his time on ice is going to go up a little bit. The Wild needed a little kick into their system. They need a little shot into their system because I think that they're extremely underperforming right now, in my opinion. And I think that Zugarello could be that little kick into the system. I mean, Fiala is still looking really good. Mm-hmm. If you were able to hold him through the suspension and the 5 postponed games, he is, and to be honest with you, Fiala is extremely underowned. I think he's roughly 56 to 60% owned. way under-owned for who people are keeping right now. But that dual position eligibility that he'll give you, I think that this is a team that's underperforming. I think we're looking at a team that we could be seeing going the way of the Oilers and not necessarily going the way of the Canadiens.
Yeah,
so.
you know what? I think that when all is said and done, I really did think that Wild would be one of the teams to sneak in there into the playoffs in that division. I really did, and I still kind of do. I mean, there's a lot of
not
guys,
impossible,
right? And there's a lot of guys that are available fantasy wise that are mid to the way owned that are you have a chance at him still. Like even a Talbot, maybe he's probably still out there. Even like a Kaprizov or something like that. Like they're probably still available in some of your leagues. So. It could, it's potential you could grab some of these guys if that team starts trending upwards, which it could happen. I mean, there's no doubt about it with a Zugarello boost, but who knows? I mean, it's just one of those things to keep an eye out on.
You'd really like to see a guy like Jared Spurgeon step up. Though the Spurgeon general warning is essentially like it's essentially the Spurgeon general warning on cigarettes these days. Nobody cares, okay?
Right,
Nobody cares. And that's really sad because that dude steps up, gets the captaincy. We talked him up early on a few of our early episodes, and it has just really not been what you wanted from what looked to be a young guy that was going to step into a role. I've had the past few years, Jared Spurgeon was a great role player, defensive guy that you pulled onto your team, that it just seemed like it hasn't worked this year. And I don't know if it is situational because of, the situation we're in through this league this year, or the pressure of being the captain has gotten to him. But it's been a little unfortunate that he hasn't stepped up to the plate. And it's not one of those things where I expect him to do so, but you almost hope that he does
for sure
for his sake. I had to drop him in a couple leagues because you can't carry a guy on hopes and dreams if you want to win your fantasy league, right. But I agree. I look for the Wild to step up to the plate, and I'm not sitting here saying that they are going to go the way of the Oilers, but I think that it's a definite possibility without as much scoring power as the Oilers tend to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Let's move into our streams of the week. I've got the Flyers or the Pens. They play each other 3 times this week. I think the Pens, one of them also plays the Rangers. But it's about to be a real good week for both of those teams.
He plays both sides of the fence, so that way he always comes out on top.
I mean, I think both sides are coming out on top, man. I think we're gonna see a lot of scoring. I think it's gonna be good matchups. I think it's gonna be fun hockey to watch for both fantasy and just entertainment. You can't go wrong with this matchup. I mean, this is something that usually this is one of the reasons why the COVID season is so all intents and purposes, it's so fun. Like,
can you imagine let's say we're doing this show still in 5 years. We're always going to refer back to the COVID season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we don't know is that 5 years we'll still have COVID.
We're going to have it. It's still happening.
It'll happen.
It's COVID season 5.
Yeah. Right. No, I like it. And there's some sneaky players here and there that pop up, like Bluger for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I picked him up last week and actually ended up being a great pickup. He
Blugered himself.
Yes, he did. And that was nice. That was a good addition. And I was luckily someone dropped Rust, and I don't know why, and I grabbed him, and that's been nice.
Can I just real quick, speaking of the Flyers, can I just completely smack talk? Claude Giroux has had the out symbol designation for 2 weeks. This dude is clearly on IR. What are you even doing? I am so frustrated by that. NBA, I play some fantasy basketball leagues. Bob plays with me. It's frustrating. A guy's out. Well, after 3 games, he gets the injured designation, and you can put him on your injury list. 3 games, you should be able to take a guy and put him on IR. Claude Giroux, Lawton, IR. He's on the COVID list.
Right.
Giroux? No, he's just out.
He's out.
He's not IR'd. We're not going to IR this guy. I'm just so frustrated by that. But I love those picks by Bob. I mean, the Pens are obviously a team that you can always find a guy that pops up onto Sidney Crosby's
Absolutely.
line and get some points. So I very much enjoy that pick. I like your pick too, though, Davey.
Yeah, so I got the Tampa Bay Lightning. 4 games this week, 1 against Dallas, 3 against the Blackhawks. They beat the Blackhawks 2 out of 2 this season, and they won big, 5-1 and 5-2. So I do expect them to do the same thing. Blackhawks have proven that they can actually compete in that division, though, so that's exciing. It actually
it's unfortunate, but
It is, but it could make for some good hockey and some good fantasy relevant players as well. There are numerous streaming options like Tyler Johnson, Barclays Goodrow, Alex Killorn, Yanni Gord, players that really aren't highly owned players right now, but they do play for a really good team who are getting exposure to the top line sometimes and the second line, and so mainly third and second, but you're still getting an option there. So any given day, these players could get on the points board. So that's my thought on Tampa Bay.
I enjoy your thought. It's really almost like, and I don't know how many old school fantasy football listeners we have. Picking up a Tampa role player right now is a lot like having a Saints wide receiver from back in the day, like a Marquise Colston or a guy like that it's just hard to pick. I was high on Barclays Goodrow early on. He has just not produced what I thought that he would. I didn't even get him because I figured he was going to score a lot of points. I got him because he was a hit monster.
Yeah.
And, in big hits leagues, that's very helpful to have. Having a guy that can get you 5 hits in a game is almost better than a guy that'll score you a goal once every 3 games.
Yeah.
He has been very disappointing. Yanni Gord has been great. Alex Killorn has been heading a really good line. I am a fan of the Lightning right now. It is surprising to me that they are not the best team in that division.
I know.
They may not even be the best team in that state.
They're not. They're not the best team in that state. And I won't. The team with 10 fans is the best team in that state right now. No, I'm 100% with you. Florida is legit in my mind right now. Or at least they look it.
They look good.
I have the easy answer, I guess. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Hard to now. I don't know that I necessarily agree with my point that they're the stream of the week. I think that I should have switched my winner of the week and my stream of the week. I kind of regret that I didn't, because the guys that are giving you the money right now in the stream of the week from the Toronto Maple Leafs are, you got a Tavares Matthews Marner line. You're guaranteed some money there. But 2 games against the Oilers.
And if you can find them on the bench, if you can pick them up, I want in your league.
Look, hey, you want to say, hey, I got a couple of podcasters in the league. We got 3 dudes that'll join. Look, I already have way too many leagues.
Let me in first.
Right.
If you have Marner, Tavares, and Matthews available in your league, we would also like to join that one. Because, hey, I would love to compete with you 2 for a championship. But 2 games against the Oilers, 2 games against the Canucks. I look for these games against the Oilers to be high-scoring affairs. 2 games, those 2 games specifically against the Oilers are off nights, Mondays and Wednesday games. So you can stream in some Leafs and get some opportunities to score some fantasy points on nights that you may not have anything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Could be getting Zach Hyman back. He came back for a couple of games, back out again. The current injury is undisclosed. Wayne Simonless, but Bobby and I talked about on the main show that actually came out a few days before this will come out. They should have Galchenyuk at this point in time. If the quarantine has ended, which could be a great addition to their bottom six and could be some potential points there. I'm looking to stream a couple of these guys. I'm obviously high on the Maple Leafs right now, at least in a fantasy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The Leafs are probably the first ones to ever break their Hyman more than once.
That's true.
There you go.
That's true.
All right, moving on to our winners and losers. My winner is a little shocking.
Fade or tail.
Fade or
Don't
tail.
forget.
Yeah, tail or fade. So I'm kind of weird of this one, tailing the Sharks, but here's why. Now you know what you got. Now that you know you have, if it's a Tuesday and, you know, when teams are bad, sometimes you're like, oh, should I put Vander Kane in the lineup? No, the answer is no. So if you've got a full lineup, you can go ahead and stash those Sharks players on your bench. You don't need to play them that night. Just go ahead. Wait. They're the Sharks, they're Wednesday night guys. It makes your life so much easier, just less stress.
Yeah, you should definitely fill out your sheet like 3 minutes before the show, always, Bobby. But obviously we're not here for this portion of the main show, Davey.
Yeah.
But you know that the Sharks are paying 2 players $2.5 million per point.
The thing is, it's like
that's not a joke. They're paying Erik
man.
Karlsson $11.5 million a year. They're paying Brent Burns $8 million a year. There is 12 points between the two of them. That is $20 million.
Oh,
12 points. That is, I mean,
what a fail though on that part.
it is. You
Just
know,
a
it
big
is.
fail.
It is massive. It is massive. I mean, Timo Meyer, even the guy that you could look to, you know, at least, all right, well, he's going to get me some shots on goal. They may not score because they don't got good opportunity, but he's getting 13 minutes a game playtime. It is sad. It is ridiculous for a team that we're talking 2 years ago was in the running for a cup almost every year.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I guess it's easy to say with the Preds as well. But to be fair, we're not paying 2 defensemen $20 million a year to do that. So I really appreciated that, Bobby. That was good.
Davey, what do you got?
I've got the Edmonton Oilers here. We did speak about them earlier in the show. Slowly but surely, they're moving up the standings in the Scotia North Division. As of this recording, they're second in the North. McDavid and Draisaitl remain at the top of the NHL standings in terms of points. So that is I feel like that's gonna continue on. That doesn't seem to be surprising to me. But they're getting help from defensemen like Darnell
37
Nurse.
and 30 as we sit.
Yeah.
Now, Mitch Marner sitting at 30 as well.
Yeah. So I feel like they're going to still stay pretty high up there in those point categories. But what is surprising to me, and this is the biggest thing that surprised me, is they're getting help from defensemen like Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie. And we've talked about Barrie before on the show and how we've been disappointed by his play, or now we're happy with his play, and now we're not again. And he's playing good this season. He's there. He's actually helping this team out pretty well. And same with Darnell Nurse, who a lot of times guys just tend to frown upon or just say, oh, he's just not playing. You know, he's not really a rosterable guy, but he is maybe at this point now. So it's been fun to watch that.
100% agreed. Tyson Barrie was a mega disappointment last year in Toronto. It really seems like he's found his fit in Edmonton. And I mean, I've always been a big Darnell Nurse guy, but to be fair, most of the leagues that I'm big on him in are hits bangers leagues, you know, which is easy to be big on the guy that's gonna crush you, you know.
Yeah.
I obviously, as my weekly impression show, I agree 100%. I think that's a great choice. As I said, I feel like my stream of the week and my winners of the week should be changed. My winners, though, Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers. Wow. I'm combining two teams. They're joining forces.
Oh, man.
No, the Carolina Hurricanes, they have 4 games this week. 2 against the Panthers, 1 against the Preds, 1 against the Red Wings. 2 easy games.
I think about Christian McCaffrey over there on the Carolina Panthers.
He's joining forces. 2 easy games, 2 tough ones. Should be some decent scoring games on those Panther battles though. Back-to-back games. Mondays against the Panthers, Tuesdays against the Preds. So, you feel like they're going to go all out on that Monday game. It's always nice to get a Monday opportunity. Teravainen back out again, but Dougie Hamilton's still looking good. Sebastian Aho looking good. I'm still high on the Hurricanes. I feel like this is a really good team that just really hasn't found their stride yet. I think I've said that a couple of times on the fantasy episodes, but I'm still big on them. A tough loss against the Lightning last night, but the Lightning scoring a goal on them, it had been, I think, something like 157 minutes of hockey. No, I'm completely wrong on that. It'd been like 4 or 5 games going back to the regular season since the Lightning had scored on them.
Wow.
I
didn't know that. That's wild.
It was a high. It was way too weird for me to not remember something crazy like that. Slavin looking good. I mean, I'm big on this team. And I think that the even moving Zingle, who hadn't been doing great, I think they got something for that. So I'm personally high on them this week. I feel like, again, like I said, they fit better in the stream of the week category, whereas the Maple Leafs probably fit better in the winner of the week, the tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm not afraid to jinx it. Shea Weber's on a hat trick alert.
Ah, snap!
Oh,
Snap!
3-3 right now. Shea Weber's got 2, and Brady Tkachuk's looking good. So
basically, what you're saying, Bobby, Sharks are about to go on a run. Sharks are about to go on a run. You talk smack about the Habnadians. You talk some little smack about the Sharks. Yeah. This is it. This is the Sharks' time. They're gonna get more than $2.5 million per point.
I'm gonna come in saying, "Hey, I called him my winner last week." You're in. You're in. All right, let's move into our who we're fading on. Bondo, start us off. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a team that just I'm generally fading as is, but especially this coming week.
It's a ballsy pick.
I try to put my balls up on the wall whenever I have to be fair, not nearly as ballsy as you, Bob. You did pick the Sharks as your winner this week, purely so you said you could add the players because they weren't playing and you didn't have to worry about it. No, I have the Detroit Red Wings, but not only because I'm just generally fading them as a team. 2 games this week. I mean, that's not even real good streaming opportunity. Yeah. Columbus and Carolina. Neither of these 2 games are even off nights. You don't even get an off night opportunity to stream in a guy on a game where you have some extra slots open. As I've typed up, even if they had more games, I mean, they're not viable fantasy options. I mean, maybe Dylan Larkin. I'm not putting but I've got him on a few leagues. There's not enough out there for me to be willing to drop a guy like that. Yeah. But I mean, a guy like Anthony Mantha, I'm not keeping him around if I had him. I mean, it's a guy that you can let go of. There's no goalie opportunities. It's not even like they're losing in high scoring affairs. You know, I mean, they're not nearly as bad as they were last year. And that's not saying a whole lot because they were real bad last year, but I've got to fade them fade him hard this
Yeah.
week. If you've been holding on to that Detroit Red Wing in hopes that he's going to push,
Get rid of him.
unless you're sitting like me in one of my leagues, not many, where you're sitting atop, and I think I've got Dylan Larkin in that team. I'm not willing to drop him to get a couple extra categories this week because I'm doing very well in that league. But I'm most certainly, if you're in a situation where we've talked about this continuously, you're trying to get in that top 6 or that top 4. Getting into the playoffs is much more important than having a better roster on paper.
It is. Yep.
And so if you're in that situation where you got to start making some decisions, you got a lot of postponed games, I'm getting rid of my Red Wings. I'm not keeping them around just to say that Dylan Larkin's a better player or Anthony Mantha's a better player than this guy. We know that. We know being a great hockey player and being a great fantasy hockey player are two different worlds completely.
Yeah, it was tough. I got rid of Mantha myself. It's not like an easy task. It was like, okay, well, I could drop him and grab somebody, who's actually performing a little better. And he's a name that you typically want rostered or somewhere lower down on your roster. And I've tried a few wings out. Bobby Ryan tried him, and that didn't work. I tried Hronek on the defense. I tried him, and that didn't work. And I've tried him, and I'm over him. So good pick there.
We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Was sometimes it's extremely, you got to make the hard call, and I'm sure Bobby would agree. Obviously, he edited the episode. Getting rid of a name is tough. Mm-hmm. It's tough. I mean, Anthony Mantha's a name. Bobby Ryan's a name, and to get rid of him for a guy like Trevor Zegras is tough to do. It's tough to sell to yourself because you're like, well, what if this guy goes off and goes crazy? Yeah, well, what if we get a flight to Mars next week and we could all just get on and go?
Right.
I mean, you can't, especially in this season specifically, it's hard to wrap your head around and keep a guy that just for the chance. Well, I mean, even if he does have 5 games next week, it could all be postponed. You gotta be getting your money's worth right now. So,
all right, Davey, what do you got over there?
Yeah, so I'm sitting with the Montreal Canadiens as my faders.
What a terrible pick! I heard Shea Weber almost had a hat trick.
Yeah, they're falling rapidly in the Scotia North, and they lost, like we touched on earlier. They did lose 3 to the last place Ottawa Senators, and God, that's so challenging as a team that I felt like we were liking a couple weeks ago, and so that's a tough situation. And this is a team that has potential to make the playoffs in this division, and you need to be winning games against your last place team. That's just a given. Fantasy options are there, but they seem to be dwindling. Guys like Jonathan Druan, Tatar, Kotkaniemi, they're all losing value fast, and that's another name that I've hung on to for a minute is Druan, and I don't want to anymore. I'm probably going to end up dropping him. So
does he still have triple eligibility?
No. He doesn't.
Just dual.
Two. Yep. He's
Center
got
right wing.
Only 2.
Yeah, which is great, but he's got 1 goal, 10 assists, hasn't scored in like 6 games. I mean, I'm kind of over it, and it's bothering me. Same with Tatar, it's bothering me.
Be fair though, Bobby. It's hard to get rid of a triple eligibility guy.
Well,
I agree though. I mean, as we've already spoke about, Bobby made so many great points about what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
We're all making ourselves look like fools because this is not going to come out for 6 days. The Canadiens are going to go on a tear.
Yeah.
They're going to be the best fantasy team that we've ever seen. It is a great point by both of you guys have made, and you got to know when to cut bait. You got to know when to cut bait.
I'm like, because I've got Suzuki in a couple leagues. I'm wondering when does that time come, if it comes. So that's a guy I was so high on him in the preseason. I don't know if I'm going to have to make that decision soon. So hopefully they turn it around so I don't have to.
I mean, you think he's still doing fairly okay for you. I mean, that's the thing is like you got to be able to separate that the team is not doing well, but X player is still doing okay for me. I feel like Suzuki is not a decision that it's not looking like you're going to have to make that decision anytime soon because he's still playing and stepping up to the plate. Yeah. Because I'm guessing we're in most of the same leagues together. You're not sitting in just a points only league, you know? So that's a big difference. And, obviously if you're playing in points only leagues, we're not the best podcast for you probably because none of us really play in just straight up points leagues. Yeah.
But all right, to round us out, I've got the Sabres. They're going against a good defense in the Islanders. I think like 2 or 3 times this week. Don't expect much scoring from them this week. I mean, if you in Cats leagues, you might get some face-off wins from them. If it's in a PIMS league, maybe you'll get some fights, but I don't expect much production out of the Sabres this week. And not to mention that they're just not looking. I'm not looked too high on them right now.
What is their excuse when they're not playing the Islanders, Bob?
Yeah, very true. So I mean, despite as well as them just being the Sabres, they're playing some good teams this week, and I think they're going to get shut down offensively this week. So if you've got a decision to make, just stay away.
They are up 1-0 against the Devils right now as we speak. I do have a little money on the Devils tonight, so they're clearly going to win tonight. But I'm with you.
We're starting to hear. I'm starting to read a few rumors too about Eichel also not happy again. So is that the case? I don't know.
Becomes Eichel for D'Angelo.
It's almost starting to get to the point though where. Is it your front office or is it you? Because I mean, I feel like we all agreed that the front office did a whole hell of a lot for you in attempts to make you happy this year. And if you're still not happy, bro, you're supposed to be leading this squad to victory. I mean, they put the pieces there. If you can't make it happen, I mean, we've all seen Sidney Crosby win games with who is that? Who is that guy? Who is that guy that we just added to our fantasy team and scored us 8 points this week? I mean, he's still young, but it's almost to that point where you're starting to get a lot less sympathy from me. Whereas, I mean, even this time last year, we're sitting here having an argument, not an argument because I'm guessing agree, but I mean, Buffalo's not doing a lot for him and then they're making, they're going to make him want to leave they did a whole lot this offseason they fired their GM for you, bro. And they brought in Taylor Hall and you have one of the best young defensemen in the league with a veteran defenseman there. And we got Jeff Skinner, and now we're gonna, Linus Ullmark is not playing a horrible job. So, I mean, it's getting to the point where it's maybe it's not the team, maybe it's the leader of the team that is doing that.
Good point.
So. All right, before we round off, anybody got anything to say? I mean. By our next episode, we will finally have seen a live hockey game this year.
Oh yeah. Both of us. He's going on Sunday.
Nice.
Glad to have you back, Bob.
Feels good to be back.
Super glad to have all three of us here so we could smack talk each other. Yeah. It's been fun. As opposed to last week where I smack talk you and then had to walk it back.
It was a good moment though.
It was because I literally paused the whole episode. I did the research and I was like, damn. I was like, should I just reset it all and not say it? And I was like, no, if you're gonna smack talk him on air and
I'm editing that and I'm like, oh shit, man, I really
I was like on the main show, I was like, well, smack talking you, but don't worry, Bobby, I have your back.
But, all right, everyone, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
This has been the Fantasy Goons podcast, brought to you by Standing Stone Farms. Listen to the boys every week and join in on the conversation on the 3 majors of social media.